Welcome, everyone, to another set of passion interviews here at the Lynn Academy. We're very excited to have this opportunity to speak to our graduates of the Lynn Academy about things that they're passionate about, things that have allowed them to make a difference in the world. Just for those who may be new to the Lynn Academy was founded by Denise Lynn. Denise Lynn is, some feel, is the best kept secret in America. She is a phenomenal individual and just energy who has traveled the world and really established herself as an expert in feng shui, space clearing, soul coaching, dream coaching, and various other alternative and really kind of spiritually uplifting approaches to how we live our lives. And the Lynn Academy has various programs that were originated by Denise that many of us have had the great opportunity to take and really try to share those kind of gifts that she kind of initiated for us out into the world. For just to tell you a little bit about myself, my name is Bill Schwingle. I am a host for these interviews. I've been with the Lynn Academy since 2002, where I first became trained in interior alignment, which is feng shui and space clearing. I'm a soul coach as well, which is another of the amazing programs Denise has started. And I work with Denise and a handful of others to just manage the various programs and the online experiences, etc. But that's enough about me. I want to introduce everyone to Dorena Kohrs. She is the space doula. She is trained in interior alignment, so space clearing, and in feng shui, as well as a soul coach, and I believe a clutter clearing, of course, clutter clearing coach. And why that's important, I can't believe I forgot that, is because that's our topic tonight, which is clutter clearing. Clutter clearing is a way in which we can release things that no longer serve us to help to make way for bigger and better things in our lives. So welcome, Dorena. So glad to have you. It's great to see you once again.
Thank you. Thank you. I always love talking to you, especially about clutter clearing. So it's good to be
Absolutely.
here.
And it's such an amazing kind of tool at our disposal. And so I'd love to learn a little bit more, maybe have you share a little bit about how you first got started with, say, clutter clearing with the Lynn Academy. Just how did this all become a passion for you?
Yes, it's woven through my entire life. I often say I was born for this work. I have my sun in Cancer, my rising in Cancer, my Mercury and my Jupiter.
Wow.
So I have lots of home
Mhm.
nurturing energy around me. So I've just always been super passionate about homes. Um, as a child, grew up in a dysfunctional home where things didn't always feel safe. I think that's probably not, unfortunately, unusual for many of us. So I retreated to my room, and I didn't realize back then I was practicing feng shui as a child because I kept moving my furniture around. I kept moving things to feel comfortable, to feel safer. So then from there, leapfrog over a couple decades. I had the opportunity, was in corporate America for a while, and then had the opportunity to do what I always wanted to do, which was decorating. And so I had a small decorating firm with a partner. She was the creative one. I was the one who would move things, climb ladders and whatnot.
Mhm.
She moved away, and I was like, I can't do this by myself. And she said, well, you should be a professional organizer because you just so naturally organize things. And I said, okay. So I hung up my shingle. I became a member of the National Association of Professional Organizers.
Mhm.
And Breathing Room Professional Organizing was the name of my company. And so I spent years organizing
Mhm.
until I got super frustrated. And I was like, I feel like people are telling me to make things look pretty.
Mhm.
And I was like, but no, why are you keeping this? And I couldn't understand why people were holding on to things.
Mhm.
So I actually had been receiving it. I don't even know where it started. Remember when Denise did like the Mumblings and Musings
Oh yeah.
newsletter,
Hmm.
like from the 90s maybe, or even before?
Right.
So she was just always in my inbox. And from there, I think I did the clutter clearing certification,
Hmm.
changed my business. I tweaked it. I dropped the title of professional organizer And then I really focused on people in the letting go aspect.
Mm.
But I felt like I was hitting a roadblock because I'd be like, I could see that somebody needed to let go of something,
Mm.
but I couldn't help them. I couldn't explain why. Like sometimes it was intuitive or so then I stumbled into interior alignment
Mm.
and I did my training with Luann. And I remember sitting in her home, being introduced to the Bagua. And I'd actually studied feng shui years prior, but had set it aside.
Mhm.
I remember working with her on with the Bagua map, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is the answer. This can show you why you're holding on to things. And so my passion becomes on helping people understand how their home mirrors their life. Because when you can see that this piece of clutter is directly impacting your relationship or your finances or your creativity, the
Mhm.
motivation is so much like deeper
Right.
really let go. It's not just, I'm not saying, hey, declutter for the sake of decluttering. I'm like, this is your intention. This is what
Mhm.
you want in your life. And I can show you now through the Bagua map and through feng shui how this piece of clutter
Mhm.
is actually impacting what you want in a very direct, tangible way.
So for those who may not be familiar with feng shui or the Bagua map, can you just explain the Bagua map for everyone?
Yeah. So, real simplistically, the Bagua map is an energy map and it shows you what area of your home is associated with what area of your life. It looks like a tic-tac-toe board. Or, as our dear friend Elizabeth Farrell, who you also know, she talks about it as a plate of brownies in nine, cut in nine
Yep.
squares, which is more
Mhm.
fun.
Mhm.
But you overlay this tic-tac-toe board
Mhm.
on top of your floor plan. And so when you stand at your front door looking at this tic-tac-toe, your house divided into a grid. Like,
Mhm.
oh, the back left corner, if you're in the northern hemisphere, is your wealth area. The back right corner is your relationship. So you can walk into for me, my living room happens to be my relationship area. So
Mhm.
I can walk into my relationship area and I can look at it through the lens of not just this is my living room, but this is the area of my life associated with my relationship. And then I can say, how do I want to feel in relationship?
Mhm.
How am I feeling in relationship? If this space were a metaphor for my relationship, what would it be? And then 9 times out of 10, things start popping like, oh, wait, like, why do I have that there? And that's what identifies the clutter
Mhm.
that makes it so much more fun and impactful to let go of.
Yeah, absolutely. And so today, as we think about clutter clearing, is can you help us understand why is it something that people should be really thinking about and looking to address in their homes or in their lives in general?
Yeah, it's such a good question. Um, because sometimes people are like, well, I have space for it. Why should I not keep it?
Right.
But as Denise has written in her book, Energy Strands, everything has energy, and we are connected to that. So if you think of all of your belongings in your home as having energy, and it either uplifts you or you brings it down.
Mhm.
And so when I work with clients, like my goal, like this is the very lofty goal, but could you imagine if absolutely everything in your home actually uplifts your energy?
Mm.
Then that's the energy you're surrounded by, so
Mm.
that you go out into the world a far more positive person than if you were surrounded by things that actually are draining you. If it's the cards from the ex, if it's the I had a review from an old boss. I worked for American Express
Mhm.
back in the 80s and early 90s.
Mhm.
And anyhow, I can still feel the snag.
Yeah, for sure.
He wrote a performance appraisal that I didn't work hard enough
Oh my goodness.
because I got into the office at 8 o'clock. He got in at 10. So those 2 hours didn't count for him.
Oh. Mhm.
I took that and filed it away
Mm.
in my filing cabinet. I didn't get rid of it maybe 10 years ago.
Oh wow.
But it's so important to get rid of, like, that's clutter, right? Because that energy is telling me I'm not good enough. And I
Mhm.
buy into that because I'm still holding on to it. So when I can let that go and affirm, I am good and I am worthy, I don't have to work so hard to prove
Right.
myself.
Well, it's amazing how clutter we associate. clutter with different aspects of our lives, right? Which I think is really an interesting thing for people to consider as they look around their homes, that really everything around you, there is a tie for you in some way, shape, or form, which is part, at least what Denise has said, is that's part of why it has such an impact on us and why it's
Mhm.
important to address.
And and our homes are so familiar
Hmm.
that we walk by things all the time. We don't go through our filing cabinets. We forget that that bench that we picked up on the side of the street when we were feeling super, at a low spot in our life, like, oh yeah, it's just been there, like, and we don't move through our space often consciously
Hmm.
until somebody, often, somebody within the Little Academy or who
Right.
comes in to help you, and you're like, ask questions, and they're like,
Hmm.
oh, why am I holding on to that? Or through a series of questions, you realize, wow, everything I have is a hand-me-down.
Hmm.
Or I'm holding on to everything out of fear that I'm not going to have enough.
Hmm.
And so you start seeing these self-limiting beliefs in our belongings.
Absolutely. And so how do you help a client or even yourself? How do you help people to get to that point? Like how do you know even where to start asking the questions? I mean, what are the things that you do that you found have been really helpful for your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I live this work. I'm in this time period of deep healing. And it's
Mhm.
been going on for about 2 years. I'm waiting for that to be done through this phase. But my house is so in tune with me. And
Mhm.
so when something breaks or something catches my attention, I'm always asking, what are you telling me? What does this mean? So I'm always looking for the clues. I'm always looking at what my house is saying. If you're just getting into it, one thing I have is I designed a quiz.
Mhm.
So I forget how many questions it is, but you can answer all these questions. They're life questions,
Mhm.
At the end of the quiz, your results actually tell you where to declutter.
Ah, I
Because
see.
basically, what the quiz is doing
Mhm.
is picking out what Bagua area is most calling for attention in your life.
Mhm.
So it magically scores things behind the scene.
Right.
It gives you a response and says, hey, it seems like um, you really could focus on your finances.
Mhm.
Here's how you lay out the Bagua map. This is all part of the results.
Mhm.
So now go to that room and ask yourself, what don't I love? What don't I need? What don't I
Mhm.
use? Um, so that for me is a good place to make that connection
Mhm.
between your life and your home. Because for me, the way I approach the clutter clearing is having that connection. So what I find with my clients is it becomes less overwhelming. It starts becoming fun. It starts becoming fascinating.
Mhm.
Like when you start seeing that reflection, you're like, oh, wow. Like, I didn't realize that.
So, in terms of clutter, I mean, there may be people who think of clutter as just one thing, like, oh, I just have a
Mhm.
messy desk. That's the clutter. Nothing else in this room is clutter. How would you help people define or understand what is or isn't clutter in their home?
I mean, some of it is that love, need, and use, right?
Hmm.
I talk about like there's so many aspects to it.
Hmm.
So one is that very first, those first three questions are an easy litmus test.
Sure.
You can ask, does this bring my energy up? Does it bring my energy down?
Hmm.
Um, do you have enough space for it? And I think this is where, like, I often refer to it as pretty clutter.
Hmm.
And I'm in the process, I have a program and we're midstream in the middle of it. And I just left a message for the participants of it. And some of it's what size space do you have? So I help somebody declutter and then we organize after that. So I go through a system, it's called the hierarchy of your home.
Yeah.
And it's based upon Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's that same concept.
Hmm.
So at the bottom, for those who may not be familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's a pyramid, and our base need is safety,
Hmm.
right? It's having food, it's having a roof over our head. Once we have those things, then we can connect with others. We can feel a sense of belonging, and then ultimately we can self-actualize.
Hmm.
It's the same thing with the clutter. Like that's the root. Like that's what we need to let go of first
Hmm.
before we organize,
Right.
before we decide what color to paint something,
Hmm.
before we space clear.
Hmm.
Because people love to say, I'm going to sage my house.
Right.
I'm like, wait, if you've gotten rid of the clutter,
Mm-hmm.
no amount of sage, the sage or the drum or the whatever can
Ever.
support you in the process.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't ever declutter, that energy is just going to come back down again.
Right. Right.
So I feel like I went off topic and didn't quite answer your question now. You'll have to
Well,
bring me
no,
back.
I think that that's good. So it's really about just understanding the different types of clutter too. So first identifying, hey, I know I don't love this. I know I don't need it. Or there's no space for it, that sort of thing. So that's one way
Right.
to identify clutter. But let's say I have in my home a collection of porcelain cats that I got from, first it started as a thing from an aunt, and then my
Right.
mom, and and it's just a collection of things. Would that be considered clutter?
Maybe yes, maybe no, right? So I'm very much not, mm, I'm a choice person.
Hmm.
So I am not totally, you have to be a minimalist
Hmm.
because I know some people's homes who have fantastic energy and they have those cat collections.
Hmm.
So it's how do you feel about it? So there's so many questions about looking at your things, and that's why it's often helpful to have somebody there to say, where did you get it from? Where
Hmm.
was it made? What was the circumstances in your life when you acquired it?
Hmm.
Um, so all of those types of questions impact the energy. So it's basically the energy of an object determines if it's clutter or not. Like, so
Hmm.
if you had this amazing relationship with your aunt and you went over to her house as a child and she always made you cookies, and every time you look at your cat, those cats, you're like, oh my gosh, I loved that.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
they had a place where you could see them and they weren't so jam-packed that, they were falling off you know,
a shelf or something, sure. Yeah.
yeah, then that's great.
Hmm.
But if you're like, oh, every time I went to my aunt's house, she told me that, my grades weren't good enough and whatever, right? Like
Right,
I just
right.
remember being criticized by her, but I feel
Hmm.
like I have to keep these.
Hmm.
It's clutter.
Right. I think it's really helpful for people to understand the different types of clutter and that things you might not typically consider clutter, it really is because of that association. So I think that's so smart and so an amazing kind of a way that we approach clutter in Denise's programs. So one other question I had around clutter is, have you worked with clients on, I guess, physical but also non-physical clutter that they might be dealing with in their lives, like emotional clutter or intellectual or even like computer clutter, those sorts of things. Do you find that that comes up much with your clients?
It does. I guess the way, again, kind of how I approach the process, the emotional and the physical always come together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that I have found one without the other.
Ah, mm-hmm. That makes sense.
I mean, because again, our homes are such a mirror of our lives. As I also like the mystics and the poets have all said, everything in the internal seeks an outward manifestation.
Mm.
So everything that's happening within us,
Mm.
our homes just become an extension of that.
Yeah, for sure.
So if we have self-limiting beliefs, if we have that emotional clutter,
Hmm.
it's going to pop up in our home.
Yeah.
And so my job is to help you see that connection between the two.
Hmm.
So that if your emotional clutter is, um, I'm not good enough,
Hmm.
like, let me help you see how that's playing out in your home. Like for some people, and this isn't necessarily clutter, there's no representation of them in their home. Like you'll see everybody else who lives
Hmm.
there,
Right.
but not them.
Hmm.
So I think the two are tied together.
For sure.
Um, Relationship clutter shows up.
Hmm.
It all plays out in the patterns in your home. And I think, again, back to the Bagua map, that can help you. Like, I always say your home can do two things.
Hmm.
The first thing is it can help you identify the
Hmm.
emotional clutter,
Hmm.
and then it can help you shift those patterns to something that's more supportive.
Right.
So it can show me, oh, yeah, I actually have these money beliefs that I'm never going to have enough.
Hmm.
So my home can show me that. And then I can use my home as this blueprint, as this
Mhm.
giant 3D vision board to show me, yeah, I do have enough. I have a splash of gold here, or I have this beautiful bouquet of flowers here, just to remind me visually
Mhm.
and to shift that emotional clutter.
Yeah, I love that. So if you're talking to someone who this is really intriguing to them, but they're thinking, I don't have a Bagua map, I barely understand kind of the impact of these things, or this is all brand new to me. Where would you suggest that they start?
Um, I'll give you two answers. One is go take the quiz
Oh,
because it
okay.
literally will walk you through where to start.
Where can they find the quiz?
Spacedoula.com
Okay,
backslash quiz.
perfect. All
Just
right.
go to spacedoula.com and you'll see it right there. But that, like, I literally will walk you through this is a space,
Mhm.
or this is how to lay out the Bagua. This is what to let go of. So
Mhm.
I'll give you, so it's a really a way to pinpoint this
Mhm.
whole process. So that's one.
Mhm.
Actually, I'll give you three answers.
Sure.
The other one is start in your bedroom.
Mm.
So in feng shui, your bedroom is associated with your inner self. It's always where Denise starts her programs.
Mm. Mhm.
So, and it's often the last place that we look at. We worry about the public spaces.
Mhm.
So come back to self, come back to that intimate space,
Mhm.
go in your bedroom. And if you feel overwhelmed, I always say go with the lowest hanging fruit. Like we literally just need to get the energy moving.
Mhm.
And don't try the hard emotional stuff. Don't take all of your clothes out of your closet and dump them on your bed.
Mhm.
But if you have an Amazon box that's empty, let go of that first.
Mhm.
Like do those things that don't take a lot because if you are feeling overwhelmed and you don't know where to start,
Mhm.
literally we just need to get the flow going. And
Mhm.
so what can you easily, and then go, I say start small,
Mhm.
10 minutes a day.
Mhm.
Um, your most productive time of the day, if you're a night person, don't try to do this in the morning
Mhm.
or vice versa. So some of those little hacks, productivity hacks, incorporate, for yourself.
Sure. I think that's great because I think that starting small just really helps people then, to your point, not feel overwhelmed. And so how will people know, even if they start small, how will they know that it's working, that they're actually making a difference?
It's such a good question. I want to answer this a different way.
Sure.
Um, I'm going to give you the honest answer though.
Mhm.
What I find is that people will have, especially when you start associating the two, the emotional and the physical together,
Mhm.
a lot of times there is this high. So I take people through, it's called the Hierarchy of the Home program.
Mhm.
We start that first week and it's like, oh my gosh, this is so fascinating. And you get excited, right?
Right.
I've had people say, I can breathe easier.
Mm.
And that's probably one of the biggest
Mhm.
comments is I can breathe more with more ease. But then what happens is our subconscious kicks in
Uh-huh.
and attracts the resistance shows up.
Mm.
So my job is always to get people through the resistance.
Mhm.
And I just left a message for somebody today because she's like, I had this pattern, I was working on it, I thought I was through it, and this other experience showed up that was a mirror of that pattern. And I said, but it's that spiritual spiral that we go through this experience, we see it from different perspectives. We
Mhm.
think we're healed. We're not. I mean, we are, but not,
Mhm.
like,
It's a
and we get
journey.
up higher. And so we have that same experience, maybe with a different person,
Mhm.
typically shorter.
Mhm.
Like, oh, okay, I remember this. I don't do that anymore. I make different choices.
Mhm.
Then you go along, and then so I find for myself, I move through those experiences shorter and shorter
Mhm.
because we're retraining things that we learned as children that we don't even remember learning.
Right.
Like for me, it was just being very disempowered, right? Just giving over everybody else makes my decisions, right? Like my opinion doesn't matter.
Right.
But now I can catch it in an hour instead of
A
10
week.
years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no,
10 years. Yes.
it was 10 years. The first time was 10.
Good. Well, that's fascinating. And so before we kind of wrap up, because I think we're about at time, are there any other last minute or last other thoughts, I guess, that you'd like to share about clutter clearing that you haven't had a chance to touch on while we've been talking?
Um, Not that I can think of. I think it is so fascinating.
Mm.
I think when you can approach it with curiosity,
Mhm.
um, it is just, to me, I just laugh. I'm like, oh my gosh, there it is again.
Mhm.
So it's just looking, I'm like, oh, I did it again.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's like, oh my gosh, I've got to declutter. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
I get to. I get to feel better in my space.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
So I think that's just, I would love to take the stigma away from decluttering as this, ugh, I have to declutter,
Right.
into this like, oh my gosh, I get to see what my subconscious is saying.
Mhm.
And I get to bring the subconscious to the conscious.
Mhm.
So I get to make a different choice.
Amazing. So I know you mentioned spacedoula.com is a place where people can go. Do you have any programs or anything that you're doing? And you mentioned the hierarchy of the home, but anything you want to share with people for the best way to reach out to you or if you have programs upcoming?
Yeah, so I have everything on spacedoula.com. I actually just redid my website. So it's like all brand new colors and
Hmm.
fun. So I have ways that like a DIY program that
Hmm.
people can purchase and do all of this
Oh, great.
on their own. And then I have some one-on-ones where you can work with me privately. And then I have group programs. So I have a membership program and then I do this 6-week hierarchy.
Hmm.
So I'm halfway through it and I limit it to 12 people because it's a very intimate and supportive
Of course.
environment.
Hmm.
Um, and because it's the healing and the transformation has been so profound with this group.
Hmm.
And people are like, wait, when are you doing it again? So I wasn't going to do it until 2026, but I'm going to run it this September.
Oh, that's great.
The wait list. So on like if anybody's interested, they can go online and they can hop on the wait list.
Perfect. So that's
So everything they can find. And then the other thing is I do write for those who are familiar with Substack, I
Mhm.
write a Substack article every Friday. Um, and you can sign up for that on my website and then you can get tips and tricks and
Oh, that's great. And I know that you have done regular videos as a part of the Lynn Academy newsletter that comes out every month
do.
too.
I do.
And those are always really great. So really appreciate that those. So another place that you can be found. Um,
Yeah, thank you.
well, thank you again so much, Dorena. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, especially about topics we love. And I love to hear the passion that you bring every single time. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Of course. So again, for those who want to learn more about Dorena, you can go to spacedoula.com. There's also the linacademy.com website that includes some more information about Dorena. You can see her bio and the various certifications that she has. And if you want to learn more about the various programs available through the Lynn Academy, you can go there as well. But this is our first in our series of passion interviews. We hope that you've enjoyed them. Please feel free to reach out if you have questions for Dorena or about the Lynn Academy. You can certainly reach out to me as well. So thank you everyone for joining us and thanks again.